Hi everyone, it's Bethany. Welcome back to day 9 of my Cricut Craft gift guide. I am going to show you in this tutorial how to make a monogrammed door sign, and I think it's going to turn out really beautifully. So I'm excited to show you the process. It's super easy, and I think this makes for a wonderful gift. People love stuff like this, and it's very easy to customize, and it turns out so beautiful. So the materials that we're going to need are, for mine, I'm going to be using this round wooden base, and I purchased this from Home Depot. You can also find something like this at Hobby Lobby as well, but I think they are a little bit cheaper at Home Depot. So this came in a natural wood. I'll show you the back because it is not stained. And then we also applied a burlap ribbon with some staples on the back so it can be hung on the door. So I'm really excited because if you guys remember when I did my reverse canvas tutorial, I was asking about stains that people would recommend to me because I was really having a tough time finding the exact stain I want. Well, I finally found the perfect stain that offered the color that I really was going for. So I used this Varathane, it's a fast dry wood stain. The color is called Flagstone, and it's gorgeous. It's exactly what I was going for. So my husband actually stained this for me, and he used a foam brush and then wiped off the stain right away. So he was a champ and did this for me. I am so appreciative. So he went ahead and stained this for me. It's been a few days since this has been stained, so we are all ready to go to apply vinyl. Other materials you're going to need are some type of ribbon. So I use this really pretty burlap ribbon. You can choose any ribbon that you like. I'm going to obviously have mine as a little door hanger, but I also may add a little ribbon piece to the top. I just haven't quite decided yet. I want to see how my design turns out and if it needs a little something or if it's better off without. I have a measuring tape and some scissors. I also have some white vinyl, and then my weeding tool and a little scraper tool. So I'm going to really quickly go ahead and measure out my board here. And this is 17 and a half. It should be a perfect round. So it's a 17 and a half inch round. And we're going to use that measurement as we hop into Design Space to get everything all sized appropriately and cut out. So for this tutorial, we are going to be using the Cricut Maker, and I'm really excited to use that. I decided to use this machine just because of the pure size of the project that I'm doing. Of course, you could do a sign of this size with the Cricut Joy. You would just have to slice your pieces apart and add them individually. Let's go ahead and ask our question of the day before hopping into Design Space. So go down into the comments and answer, between adhesive vinyl and iron-on, which is your favorite? That's a great question, and I've actually answered this twice today for some comments, so I will be interested to hear what you guys think. So between adhesive vinyl and iron-on, which do you prefer to work with, and what is your favorite? All right, let's hop into Design Space and let's get everything all designed and sized and ready to cut out.
Okay, so this is the design that I'm going to be using. I purchased this from designbundles.com. It is gorgeous. I've actually had my eye on this for quite some time, and I think this is going to be a perfect project to finally use it on. So I'll go ahead and link this exact design in the description box below the video, as well as all the other materials that I've used in this tutorial in case you want to purchase this and recreate this look yourself. So this actually is intended to be a monogram wreath sign, and you are going to put a monogram right in the center of this beautiful wreath, and then the established date of the family, and then the family's name is supposed to go in this box. So because my wreath is circular in nature, I'm actually just going to be using this wreath part and the established part, and I'm actually not going to add the family name because I just want it to take on a more circular shape. So I will show you how I'm going to get all of this edited and just the way I would like it for my particular project. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to shapes, and I'm going to grab a circle, and I'm going to make myself a template for my actual wooden sign and the size that it is. So I'm coming up here to the size, and in the width box I'm just going to type 17 and a half, and that is the size of my wooden sign. So I'm going to bring that right up here, and then I can make this a nice brown color, and I'll make that a little bit closer to the brown that I have. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this to the side a little, and then I'm going to bring this over and I am going to start editing this file. So if you can see over in this layers panel right here, it has the layers broken up by type, which is going to be very helpful. So I can just click the I and turn off the layers that I don't want. So I don't want this layer, I don't want this layer, and I don't want the family. And while I do want to add an established, I'm going to add that myself. And the reason is because I want to be able to match the text exactly. And I don't want to worry about if the text that I'm adding with the date is going to match the given text. So I'm just going to go ahead and hide that and then add it in myself. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click and say send to front. And I'm just going to bring this over to my board over here, and I'm just going to get this sized how I would like it. Okay. So that looks just about right to me. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to come up to the text, which is right over here. It's on the left-hand side. It's the fifth button down. It's this huge T. And I'm going to select that. And then I'm going to come up to the font right up here. And I'm going to use one of my favorite fonts that is just a very basic font, but it's called Kate's ABC. I just love this font. It's really, really nice and intentional. So the monogram I'm using is D. That's the first letter of the family name. So I'm going to go ahead and make that bigger. And then it's a double layer font, but I only need the first layer. So I'll go ahead and just delete that second layer. And then I am going to just make this the same color as my vinyl. So I'm actually using white vinyl, but I'll just do it in the black color so you guys can really, really see on the screen a little better contrast. So I'm going to size that up a little bit here. Looks really good. Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the exact same font. I came over to the text box again using the Kate's ABC's font still. I am going to say established period, oops, period, and then 2008. Okay, so that is the established date. And then again, I'm just using a single layer. I will make this black. Perfect. And then I will just place this right under the little monogram right there. Okay, so now I'm just going to start placing everything around, and it looks like I do have a little bit of space up here that I might be able to do a little bow. I really just still haven't decided if I want to do that yet, just because I like how this is open up here, and I don't want the bow to cover it and take away from the beautiful design. So I'm really going back and forth. You can definitely do whatever you wish. However, I think I might, well, I won't make a decision yet. Okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. So, whoops, I am just getting my sizing down. Grab this little established. And getting my placement where I would like it. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to, using the shift key on my keyboard, I'm going to select my wreath and my monogram and my established date. So I have the established date, my big D, and then the wreath. And I am going to come over to align, and I'm going to say center horizontally. Okay, so that ensures that everything's centered. I like how the established date is centered nicely, but I think that the D needs to come over to the right a little bit more, just visually for me. I know it was technically centered, but it visually did not look right to me. So I'm just gonna bring that over just a little, maybe there. Okay, so for me, that looks a little better. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to make sure that even though these are 3 different layers right now, if I went to make it right now, it's going, oh, hold on, it's telling me that my circle is way too big, but I don't need my circle anyway. I'm just going to hide that. So if I went to make it right now, go ahead and select my maker, say make it, it would place my little wreath here, it would place my D here and my establish here. So I want to make sure that since I spent so much time in Design Space making sure everything is aligned just how I like it, I want everything to cut right here in this exact fashion. So I'm going to select everything, and I'm going to come down here and say attach. Okay. So now I think it might be a tad big. Okay, so it's just a tad too big with the established there. So that is actually an easy fix. So what I'm going to do is I can detach that. I can attach the D and the wreath. Let's attach those together. And that is fine. I don't have an alert over here. If you get the triangle alert, it means you have a size issue. It's too big for the current machine you're working with. So what I'll do is, that's okay, I will go ahead and center this and place this separately. That way I can fit everything else on my mat perfectly. Okay, so I am all ready to go. Now what I'm going to do is I am going to say make it. Okay, so I will say okay, and then I will go ahead and say okay, so if you notice, before it wasn't allowing me to do continue, this button wasn't available, and it had a big red bar up here, and it alerted me saying it was unable to prepare my order. If you ever run into that, I always find that I just have to restart Design Space, and for me, my Design Space just needed to do an update. So if you ever run into that, mostly it's just a need to restart your Design Space. So I restarted it, and now I'm back. I'm going to click continue. I'm going to browse all materials, and I am going to go down to vinyl, and I'm actually using an Oracle 651 vinyl, I believe. So the setting that I'm going to use is just the premium vinyl setting. So I'm just going to go ahead and select that, click done, and then I will go ahead and load my mat. Again, I'm using my 12 by 24 mat because of the size, and then I will get cutting.
Okay, so I just have my roll of Oracle 651 vinyl on my mat here, and then I'm going to feed it right into my machine. I'm going to press the loading button that's flashing, and then the Cricut button, when it flashes, I'll press that to start cutting. Okay, so everything has cut out, and then I went ahead and grabbed my pair of scissors and I trimmed off some areas of extra vinyl that I wanted to keep and save in my little scrap bin. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to start weeding. So I'm going to grab my weeding tool, and I'm just going to start up here. You can start in any direction, and I'm just going to go slow. So there are a lot of little vines and sudden stops and turns. So you'll just want to go slow when weeding this. So the question of the day, ironically, is what we prefer between adhesive vinyl and iron-on. And ironically, I actually prefer iron-on because I think iron-on is so much easier to weed. And I also think it's easier to place because with adhesive vinyl, you kind of have one shot with it. Once it sticks to your project, wherever it sticks, it pretty much is going to land. And it's kind of hard to bring back up. But with iron-on, you can put it down on your project and then peel it up and take your time with it just to make sure your placement is just perfect. So I like vinyl because it's a really good beginner material, and I did a lot of vinyl when I first started with my Cricut, and I still do a lot of vinyl because there are just certain projects where you can only use vinyl. But between the two, I really love working with iron-on. So you can definitely also do this project with iron-on as well. I just chose to do it with adhesive vinyl this time, but I will link a tutorial. I have several on how to apply iron-on to wood. So if you ever get to a point like I am right now where there's just a lot of extra vinyl, it's easiest if you just take a pair of scissors and cut that away, because if this falls back on your design, it can start peeling up other pieces and it can become a mess in a hurry. So I just like to basically start over and just take away some of that extra vinyl that has already been weeded, and then you don't risk it falling back on your project. Okay, so now I am just going through and weeding out all the little middle pieces and just taking my time, making sure I get all the little pieces. Some of the berries are hollow where you need to weed out a little circular middle, and then some are filled in, so I don't want you to think I'm forgetting anything. Hopefully I'm not, but some of them are just filled in already. So I'm curious, since we're on day 9 of the gift guide. If you guys have made plans to recreate any of the gifts, or if you have made lists of gifts you're going to do this year, let me know what you guys are planning to do, and if you have any fun ideas as well. This has been really fun to do. Plus, I feel like this has made gift giving really fun because I get to create in the process and really put my heart into something as a gift instead of simply buying something. And of course, there are going to be things that I buy this year. It's just the way it is. But I like that I can put a little bit of my heart into gift giving this year instead too. Okay, so that is all weeded. So now what I'm going to do is I am going to trim off the little established date, because remember, I'm going to be placing that separately on the sign. And then I have some clear gridline transfer tape for this project. You can use any transfer tape that you love. I prefer using something that is clear for this particular project because I really think that a clear transfer tape really helps to line up the project. So it's really helpful when centering. And I also have another little piece that I can put on the side because this initial piece will not be quite big enough. So I am simply going to grab a corner of my transfer tape right here, and then I'm just going to peel away the first couple inches, and then I'm going to bend this bottom part back just so it exposes a couple inches of that transfer tape, and the rest is just kind of bent back. Then what I'm going to do is I am going to just lay it down, just that 2 inches of transfer tape. I'm going to lay it down on my vinyl design, and then I'm going to start pulling this back piece, which allows more transfer tape to be released. And I can kind of scrape as I go if I would like, but I'm kind of just placing a palm there and helping it lay down. And I'm just going to slowly release that transfer tape a little bit at a time. Keep laying it down with my hand. Release a little bit more. Lay it down and release the final little bit. Okay, perfect. And then I'm going to keep this because I like to reuse my transfer tape. So I'll just place this back on that paper when I'm done. Okay, so now I just need a little bit more for this tiny section over here. So I'm just going to grab a little piece. Okay, I could even probably just do it this way. And I just like to overlap them just a little. Okay. So I overlap the transfer tape just a little bit so it comes off in one piece once that's time. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is grab my scraper tool and I'm going to really press down on the top of that transfer tape. So this is just going to allow the transfer tape and the vinyl to come together because the transfer tape is going to then peel the vinyl up off of that blue cutting carrier sheet. Okay, so now I'm going to see which way. Okay, so I'm going to peel it up this way. I want to peel with the vines and not against the vines. It's kind of hard to see just because it'll help not pull anything up. So I'm just going to grab my transfer tape or grab my blue carrier sheet and I'm going to peel it away and it leaves the design right on my transfer tape. So I peel that at an angle just to help it come off nicely. Okay, 0 problems. That's perfect. Okay, so now comes the moment of truth with getting it all on the board. Okay. Okay, so now what I'm going to do is I'm going to slowly pick this up. And do you see now why I like the clear? Because you can really see through it so that it will help you with centering. So now this is the part where you have to be really careful. And this is what I mean by it being a little tricky with adhesive vinyl because you kind of have one shot at it. With iron-on, you can place it and peel it up. But with adhesive vinyl, you have to, actually, I'm going to put this down. You have to get it right pretty much the first time. I'm going to kind of give myself an idea because I almost forgot I was going to put that down. And I want to make sure that I leave some intentional space for that. Okay, so I'm going to pull this tight. That way I don't lose control of the transfer tape and accidentally let it fall on my project. Okay, so we're just going to have a moment of silence because I have to focus and do this perfectly. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. I might move it up just a little bit for that established date. Okay, I think I'm going to go for it. Okay, so I'm just going to lay it down. Then I'm going to start in the middle and just start scraping down my design with my scraper. So I kind of like to just do a light lay down with my hand first, and then I go down with a little bit more pressure with my scraper tool. Okay, so I've scraped that down pretty well. So remember, this little part over here has just a small piece of transfer tape. So I'm just going to go ahead and remove that first. And if you see any that is little pieces that are not staying on your board, you're just going to take your scraper and repress. And it could be just because you forgot to do that part like me, or didn't do a good enough focus press there. Okay, so I peeled off all of that transfer tape. It took me a little bit to help get some of those pieces to stay down, but I just continued to use my little scraper as I was peeling up the transfer tape, and it ended up working out. Okay, so now I'm just going to grab another little tiny piece of transfer tape so I can individually put my little established date right on this. So I'm going to scrape that down on the front and then again on the back, and I'll just go ahead and peel that carrier sheet away, and then easy peasy, I can place this very easily on its own. Okay, so the transfer tape is off. It looks really, really nice. Again, you can take your scraper tool too. If you notice any tiny little bubbles, they're very, very easy just to smooth out, and everything will look good. So it looks really neat with this vinyl. I think it almost looks like paint, which is really nice. It's got a nice gloss too on it that's super, super pretty. So I think for me, and I am definitely more of a minimalist, I think I am going to not put a ribbon up here. And I'll tell you why. I think that the ribbon is going to cover up the design too much, and I really like how this is open right here. So if you want to do yours differently, that is the most beautiful thing about crafting, is you can make your own decisions and craft it just the way you'd like it. But for me, this looks perfect for what I like. So I'm also not going to seal mine because the door that this is going on is covered, so there's not going to be any wet elements that are going to come into contact with this. So I am going to choose not to seal mine. So if you, again, wanted to put this in a space that you are worried about it, coming into contact with the elements, you certainly can do some sealing, but I'm personally not going to on mine. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. Please be sure to share this video, give this a thumbs up. I honestly think this is going to be a wonderful gift. I think everyone would be really, really honored to receive something like this, because quite honestly, this was very affordable to make, but this looks like something that's very expensive. So it costs way less to make this myself than it would for me to have to purchase this. It would have definitely cost a lot of money. So I think it looks very expensive, very polished, and it took very little time and very little materials. So be sure to give this a thumbs up. Don't forget to answer the question of the day, share this video, and I will see you all in the next video.